Hello. It's been a second, hasn't it? It's all right. It's one of those things where I think it ebbs and flows, and every time I say that I'm going to be back, I'm never back. So let's just assume that it's going to be ad hoc from now on. Eh? Fucking hell. I have a drink. It's my Stanley Cup. God, that's a 6-month-old joke now, isn't it? How old is that? Gosh, how time flies. You know, don't they say a week in politics is a lifetime? A week on social media is like 100 times that, right? That was my funny Stanley Dick drink bottle joke from 6 months ago. Anyway, hi everyone. I hope you're well. Whoop, hang on, I've had a disconnection. Am I right? We good? Okay, we're good. All right. Just fucking internal connections. Okay, my buttons. Hang on, let me test my button.
What a load of oh shit!
There we go.
That mass murderer Karl Marx?
Okay, we're good. All right, we're working. It was just obviously it was just an excuse to use the buttons. You know me by now. So just let me just mess with some stuff. Hang on a sec. Turn that off. Stop looking at my face, and I don't get distracted. Okay. All right. So now from this point on, if there's anything that happens to my face, it's on you. You're going to have to, like, because I can't see it. So, all right. So it's been a while, so I'll probably take a while to, like, warm up. I'm not feeling it today. But I thought, okay, well, show up. You know, to give the 3 people what they want. It's been a weird, you know, I thought I'd open with some of the, it's where do you even begin? Because I've obviously spent, like, I think if you're new to me, which I think fair few people might be, because I've been shadow banned from all of this stuff, like, for, gosh, I've been hiding in the shadows for probably at least 4 years now, where I've seen no growth on my channel, no growth, especially on Twitter. I had to create a second account. LinkedIn's fine, but obviously that's a different audience. But, and obviously because we've seen this like scattering of social networks where every time the problem with X, or the good thing about X, I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad thing, is that you can't replicate it. And I go to Blue Sky, and like, it's the most annoying people from Twitter hanging out on Blue Sky. And it's like, I don't want to sit there among that like echo chamber of cancel fucks. And then you go on Threads, and it's just like all of the people who ruined Twitter have either sort of gone over to Blue Sky, which is where all the cancel fucks are, or the like inane corporate like influencer drones have gone over to Threads. The people, who it's like, well, pick your favorite billionaire. Zuck's, it's like, well, okay, well, Musk says it out loud at least. Zuck, if you think Zuck and Elon have different politics, I've got a bridge I'd love to sell you. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to have to stay put. But if you're new to me, because I think I need to give some context in light of this Russian influence campaign, which is that I've been talking about platform manipulation, astroturfing, fake traffic, fake followers, troll farms, and how people sort of, all of these funnels that influence ops, engagement pods, all of that stuff for years and years, because I have spent nearly 30 years on the internet and 20 professionally doing digital strategy. And I had an agency, and I fell into this stuff and was running an agency. And there came a point around 2018 where I saw just how fake. You could not compete in a landscape where people were obviously buying likes, buying followers. It was all fake. People were just paying, actors what started as sort of micro-influence campaigns that for people that were actually influential. Like, I started out as one of those little sort of like local micro-influencers on Twitter. Companies would approach you and brands would approach you and you'd go direct. What happened was, of course, bad actors started to see that they could actually just make that. Like, building a girl band or boy band was. Like the Spice Girls was basically, the same thing. They could just create an influencer. An actual influencer has thoughts and diverse thoughts and complexity and and different values and all that sort of stuff. And so they found that creators were too hard to work with. So why not just hire one? Why not just hire an actor to and build them from scratch? And they're malleable. Just hire a greedy person who's got no scruples and would be a cardboard cutout, and you could they would just do what you say, like versus having to pay a lot for somebody who's already built that organically and understands what that is. They figured out that they could just like build that and make that. And that was something that I saw. Obviously, I saw it happening. It was always a thing. It's always been a thing. One of the things where I went viral was making fun of the bots, was just using keywords and getting them to fucking share my shit. It was funny, right? But at the same time, like that all of we saw sort of Coney 2012. We saw those sort of key sort of viral moments where people realized that they could do fuck all, but feel like they're doing a lot, but actually do fuck all, with activism. And, here we are. Like we're seeing this stuff sort of, there's a lot of history to this stuff. But I saw this really turn on its head in 2014, where things stopped being organic. As soon as the influencers moved in, as soon as corporate brands moved in, I've written about this, where I would fight this. Like there's stuff that I've written from sort of 2009 about how social media is not something. It's the antithesis of corporate brands, and that they need to slot into what conversations people were having, not the other way around. And of course, corporate HR and corporate brand managers didn't want that because people were too out of control. They didn't know their place. So what they would do is start to control these networks, and advertisers would just buy it up and control it like another property because it was too expensive to build one yourself organically, right? You had paid, earned, and owned. Okay, that was the sort of one of them. But what the very simple like digital strategy template was that you had some paid media, you had some owned media, which is your own community that you were building, like you'd build your own community, and then you would so own that, and then you have the more organic part. And then they figured that most people didn't want to do the organic part. They didn't want you there. You weren't welcome. So they thought, well, let's just pay it and own it then. Let's cut out the earned part. Let's just pay it and own it. And that was, sort of what happened. So anyway, I saw this in 2014. I tried to create an agency that would not do certain things. So like, the SEO would always be white hat, do things the right way. And over time, I just saw clients just didn't they wanted the numbers. Didn't matter. They didn't care if it was fake. They didn't care if it was a dead lead. They didn't care about the quality of the leads. They wanted the spreadsheet with 1,000 names on it, even if it was just buying a list. And that was, I just saw the writing on the wall for the industry. Obviously, made tech products, all that sort of stuff as well. And I saw the writing on the wall and I just couldn't do it anymore in 2018. And I just saw, obviously, post-Trump, all these sorts of, things that people talk about ad nauseum, but Trump was a symptom of this problem. He wasn't the cause of it. He was a symptom, okay? This stuff has been going on, the Obama campaign and all of that sort of stuff. They, were leveraging data and using persuasion scores and, PACs were doing all of this stuff well before Cambridge Analytica. Cambridge Analytica, again, was a symptom of a bigger problem, and we're just seeing this just get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. It just accelerates, okay? And AI is a new version of that. So just to give you some context, when I see these, scandals with influencers, it's like, well, okay, now do the rest. Now do Midas Touch, do fucking Media Matters, do Israel, do, all of these other, do pharmaceutical companies, do Walmart, they're all doing social listening. They're all hiring influencers. They're all paying them shit tons of money for very little work, and to varying levels of success. But because it's obviously politically more, when someone you don't like is caught up in it, and this is again something that I have experienced because I know that people are doing with the industry. This stuff is very much lie by omission, which is to accuse your enemy of doing stuff and people you don't like of doing stuff. But the second that I went through this, like the second that you go onto things, that was really interesting. So like I started YouTube just because I didn't understand sort of the mechanics of building YouTube. Like I obviously I'd done it for other people, but there was something that I was missing about like actually being the person who was on camera. And so I, kind of did that. I wanted to explore some of these issues. The gender debate sort of was where a lot of this stuff really sort of, like a lot of it intersected. And I took an interest in this stuff and the culture wars, right? And so, and that's where I sort of landed into, receiving calls from various operations offering money to say certain things, like various patrons coming out of nowhere, not knowing who they are, telling you to, and it was just, there was all that sort of stuff. But the second that I said no and they realized that I was not malleable, turning on you and mass reporting you. And so when I say that I've been shadow banned for years, this is what I'm talking about, which is that I've been on the receiving end of these bad actors in a vicious way because I said no to them. I didn't say yes to them. So I'm sympathetic. Even though I think Tim Pool's an idiot, okay, and he, I think that this Tenet Media is one source of his revenue, right? I'm sure that he dips across the, various parts of various interests, okay? I don't think it's one source of revenue, okay? The fact that everyone's suddenly talking about it like this is some great big scandal when it is just like the foundation of everything to do with making money on the internet and influencer marketing. It basically, if you're for sale, you succeed, and if you're not for sale, you don't. you know, it's not as easy as just making content. As again, let me clarify that. It's not as simple as just making content in the political media space. When you're talking about sort of legal politics, you know, culture wars shit or anything, trying to do that in a sincere way, the incentives are all wrong, and the money is in doing right-wing talking points, whether it's for Russia or for Israel or for, you know, whatever, okay? It doesn't matter who. That's where the money and the incentives are. But also, I think an important thing to point out is the consequences of saying no to these people is actually you are somewhat... that was the thing I think that surprised me as someone who was approached by a lot of these people. They wanted to build me up and turn me into this thing, okay? And I said no, because it's not. I think you've grossly misunderstood where I'm coming from here, sir. No, I will not talk about China. No, I will not talk about things. Okay? No, we don't have common enemies. I am an analyst and I am interested in truth and I'm interested in transparency. And I had no idea. Okay, let's not say no idea, because I worked in the industry. I knew what was going on. I had no idea the extent to which this was a problem, how crooked the social media influencer industry was. And I've gone from saying, you know, like you'll see, like I have gone from being 100% people should be free to create and, you know, who cares where the money comes from, you know, blah, 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 okay? You do you. To now, you know, like this is effectively a way of, you know, for organised crime. It's effectively, you know, MLMs and organised crime and corruption. And I've sort of come out the other side of that because I initially, you know, like this is, I couldn't do it anymore. I have no career anymore because I stuck my neck up and I went, hey guys, I think a lot of this stuff is fake. And I think that like these platforms are compromised, and I think that, and no one would listen. This was 2018, 2017. I stuck my head out and I went, I don't think that it's right that people should be mass reported and banned by bots. And like, I think you need to look at this stuff, and the way that your automated systems are working is hurting people and damaging innocent people who are just find themselves for whatever reason up against bad actors, whether they be dodgy agencies, engagement pods, where they, you know, have actual people who are duped into reporting these people, or, you know, that they recruit people like an MLM. They'll recruit people who want to get, you know, build influence, and they sign up to these pods, which is like a group of, you know, 10, 20, 100 people. And then at the more of their shit that you are willing to share, the more you progress into that. But you find yourself in a position where, should you go, no, I don't want to do that anymore, they can turn that exact group back onto you as an influencer and you're wrecked. I mean, that's what happened to me, right? That's effectively what happened, was that I was, effectively said no, and then they send their army to mass report me because I started talking about these tactics and these techniques. So it's people are sort of wandering in and falling in, and I get a couple of views and I get a couple of people every so often. But that's really, I just sit here and I laugh, and then you see, and especially because I kind of was one of those people who gave those IDW types the benefit of the doubt, because I thought that they had identified the same problem I had. But I realized that they were doing their own version of, propaganda and reliant on bots. And then all of a sudden you've got fucking IDW types going, And it's like, yeah, I remember we had a phone call where I told you about this and you just pretended I didn't exist after that. Okay? That's the problem, is that people like to pretend that I don't exist. They don't fight me. They don't argue with me. They just pretend I don't exist, which is fucking interesting. Like my accounts, they don't get bots. Like they don't get the bots. They don't get anything. They don't get the spam. I don't get spam DMs. They just leave me alone because again, that's how I know that a lot of this stuff is troll farm stuff, because if it was a person, people have less self-control. Bots can be programmed to make people a no-go zone because they know that they're going to get reported. And in my case, I report spam bots, I take down. I've been known to take down entire fucking troll farms, and I ruin their shit. And so especially over COVID, when I started to report them and various other things. So, they fuck with me in the background is basically what I'm saying. They don't fuck with me overtly, okay? They just sit there and mass report me. I've got all these mass reporting scripts on me. So it is quite funny because I'm sitting there, everyone acting like, especially people that I know benefit from these things. You sit and you just watch them when they're talking about it. They're like, did you hear about this Tim Pool thing? And then you just pay attention and they go, mm-hmm. It's like nobody wants that industry, the worst kept secret in the industry to come to light, because at some level, once you get to a certain amount of influence, you're going to get the call. Or 2 or 3 in my case. I remember when I got a call from one operative where they were where I was basically saying, well, they're like, basically, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'd like to write a book and get published as an author and, just sort of grow this to a sort of sustainable level. But, obviously not without, this was before the ask, right? This is just having a conversation. Like, people approach me and because I've been in business, I'm used to just having these sort of conversations, right? Where you have an initial meeting and you go and, you exchange sort of, oh yeah, what do you want? How can I help you? Where are the overlaps? Like, that's a normal part of having a business, is having that kind of conversation. And so they started saying, oh, well, if you write a book about how, this group are doing manipulation, then we'll fund you. Or if you want to write a book about how Russian bots are doing a thing, then we'll fund you. And I said, no, I want to talk about the actual techniques, the actual tactics, the specifics, and how everyone is doing it and how it is endemic to the business model. And then they're like, and that includes, people that I agree with. And nope. Straight away, no. So everyone, has people want to keep tools for themselves. No one wants to sort of address the underlying problem or the real obvious policy solution or legal solution or anything like that, because they want to keep that as part of their toolkit. And it is part of their toolkit, and they want to use it against their enemy. And that's what I find interesting about if you haven't seen it, like, obviously, I've skipped to the point where I don't, you can look it up. Just look up Tenet Media and Tim Pool and Dave Rubin. And I mean, Tim Pool surprised me because there's this, I put him down to the Jerry Springer effect. And now if I'm just going to explain what the Jerry Springer effect is, and it's like, I've just made that's my shorthand. I don't think that's actually a term. But there was a quote from Jerry Springer back in the 90s. Someone asked him how he finds so many guests and members of his audience and how he keeps with guests. And, how he keeps a steady stream of guests. And Jerry Springer's answer always stuck with me, where he said it's just a numbers game. There's at the time 300 million Americans. 1% of that is 3 million potential sources. So we just, it's a numbers game. And it's the same thing with Tim Pool. I put him down to the fact that he was a representative of that 1% of complete and utter idiots in America. I thought that his work was so bad, so silly, so lazy. He wasn't even, it's not even like a hard worker. He doesn't read or anything like that. And Dave Rubin's a different thing. He's obviously on the take. But Tim Pool surprised me. I had him down as a Jerry Springer effect lolcow who got lucky, who just attracted a bunch of idiots. I had no idea. I did not think that anybody would pay for that little work, if that makes sense. Right? I didn't think anyone would actually pay that kind of money for that. I thought that he was an anomaly, and I was wrong about Tim Pool specifically. The others not so much. But it is, again, the timing of it is, the thing is, both things can be true at once, which is that, no shit, Sherlock, there's Russian operatives paying lots of money to right-wingers to spread bullshit. And but the timing is also suspicious, which is like it's election season. They're trying to obviously destroy the credibility of people who are advocating for Trump. I also, I mean, whatever credibility they have with their audience, I don't know whether this will affect it, because, you know, like, they're in a bubble and an echo chamber anyway, so it doesn't matter. But, you know, many things can be true at once. And, you know, there's no reliable narrator in this thing, because the industry itself, you know, I shy away from saying termites because, again, words are loaded now. I've got to be careful. But, you know, it's basically the white anting of the internet. I've written about it, okay? It's like we've got termites, and that is influencer, money, the lack of transparency around where money comes from. If you want, so in the law, if you want the protection, so in the law, there are always protections for journalists, right? There's legal protections. So even under, like in Australia, the Online Safety Act, being a journalist, the journalist defence is something, is an exemption for certain things. Okay, so if it's in the public interest and you are a journalist, you know, with a you know, media, credible media outlet, you have an exemption from various things, okay, because it is in the public interest to do so. Like most good media legislation has that, okay, and they fall more under ACMA. You know, there's all these various things. There's always a journalism exception. Same thing with whistleblowers and that sort of stuff. But I'm increasingly of the view that if you want those protections, okay, if you want to exercise the protections, you can't just identify as a journalist because it is convenient for you, okay? If you want those protections as a journalist, that's a two-way street, which means you need to be transparent about where your money's coming from. You have to be willing to subject yourself to an audit, or at least open your books up. Like if you open, I mean, not that I have books anymore because I quit. Like I have a couple of sort of legacy clients, but I've quit, and I've got a handful of patrons. I'm open about, like, I'm quite happy to open that stuff up. Okay. And quite happy to protect anonymous donors. But if it's asked for by an auditor, then I go, yeah, okay. And have an ongoing conversation. And I'm not even a journalist. Okay. I'm of the view that if you are a journalist and you want the protections and exemptions and, you know, legal protections that come with being a journalist, you have to open up your books. I think that and a digital agency as well. So this is another thing, which is that the digital agencies and advertising agencies and those sorts of marketing companies, PR agencies, you know, those sorts of places, right, those have become havens for, you know, the place that you pay to run Facebook ads and do the creative and, you know, run your Google ads and all of that sort of stuff. Those have become havens for dark money laundering. And I've explained this a lot about, I've explained this, how they get around various transparency measures, like setting up online stores and selling merch so that they can get your email address, so then they can email you direct. Those have become havens for laundering of money, pooling of money. And I am, again, increasingly of the view that if you want, that digital agencies, if they are involved in political advertising or have permission to do political advertising, selling political merch, anything around election time, you also have to be subjected to an audit or be transparent, and, you know, it has to be publicly available information, much like you would for a not-for-profit or charity or anything like that. Because I think that, you know, there's just too much. And you know, America's toast. America's going to do what it does. Like the vaping campaign here was obviously an American astroturfing operation. I found myself on the wrong end of that too, simply for saying, "Hey, this policy is not what it says. It's just it's just the TGA. It's regulation. They're not sending you to jail for vaping. That's not true." Oh, that got me banned from Community Notes, by the way. So they mobbed me there and banned that. So even anonymously, they just ban anyone who says anything true that they don't like. It's everywhere. So in Community Notes, well, I'm literally a political scientist, and I don't use Community Notes on political issues because I know that I'm going to get hounded and kicked off of Community Notes. It's not worth it. If you're going to use Community Notes, like, you either need to be on one side or the other of politics and sort of, you know, and you can't be factual. You can't be someone who's actually interested in using Community Notes. Let's put it that way. So this problem has been a problem for years and years and years. Okay. I've been talking about it for years and years and years. Like a lot of my older streams and stuff are sort of archived, mostly because they were all live streams. And I haven't reviewed them in some time. And so I've been meaning to go through them and review them and see if there's anything there that like I want to correct or whatever. I haven't, you know, I've got 1,000 hours there of streaming, but I have talked about all of these tactics and all of these things in detail over the years. Been meaning to write a lot of it down, but again, it's like when you're shadow banned, can't grow an audience, can't make money, can't get support, can't do anything, you just kind of sit there floating. So I went to law school. I started out, I was like, well, okay, everyone's being radicalized. This, again, I've seen this again earlier, I think, the psychology, I initially thought that, okay, so what's the solution to this problem? What's the solution to this problem? All right, well, you can't get the tech companies to spend the money that they need to do to provide a, mechanism of review, or, they're not going to do it. They're not going to. They're going to get worse and worse and worse. And this was 5 years ago. Like, this was before the LLMs really kicked in and went mainstream, okay? But the tech companies are not going to do anything. I put my hand up. I said, hey, guys, you might want to do something. I was trying to use my contacts to get in contact with people. I was trying to do all of this sort of internal policy and process work to make sure that, but again, they wanted it as part of their toolkit. And also they, the second, obviously under the Digital Services Act and those other, similar kind of online safety acts and those things, the second the platform is aware of the problem, they then become liable. So, ignoring it is a big part of the strategy. So they're not going to proactively do anything. Their whole strategy is to ignore the problem and just go hide behind the AI. Okay, and I'll talk about that in a minute because that's changing too. But what happened was, I lost my place. Can't remember what I was saying. That happens. Where's my drink? I'm thirsty. My Stanley cup. I'm cool. I'm fashionable. Hello, Stephen. Good to see you. So, yeah, so, like this whole thing with Tim Pool is funny because he's the dumbest dickhead on the internet. I don't know why anyone would pay. I do understand intellectually why people would see him as a valuable asset. But on the other hand, I'm like, what the fuck? He doesn't even do anything. He doesn't read. He just makes stuff up. It's like, what the fuck? Like, he'll talk about stuff that he's never read anything on. And it's like, it would take me weeks of reading the research to even come up with a coherent argument. But he just says stuff, you just got to, it's much easier to just make stuff up, isn't it? Fucking hell. And Dave Rubin, well, okay. But it's like, well, yeah, but now do the others. Do the trigonometry guys who I know are on the take. Do, make them have to be transparent about where their money's coming from, because the impact, is it's not just this one thing. Now, to their credit, the DOJ, there's a high threshold. They could be spending years trying to build a case. So before you even begin to get someone, get an indictment, these things take a long time. What I think we might find is that there's more and more and more and more of these indictments. And like me, I think the digital problem, I think I've said this before, is that there hasn't been a legal framework to work with really up until sort of recently. And the reason why it looks like they're sort of cracking down is that these acts are only just passed. Like they're still new. It's still new law. We've got a whole bunch of test cases that are going to be clarifying the details of those things. So the thing about statutes is the way that it operates with the court is that the court will clarify the statute and interpret the statute, and then people will get a stronger sense of where charges will stick and where they'll be dismissed. And, this, like I said, this is going to take a decade, easy, maybe, even longer than that. It's going to be ongoing. Okay. These are big problems. We are late to the party with it. And, a lot of the legislators didn't even see the problem until recently. And the ones that do have been using it in a way that is, again, they want to keep the toolkit for themselves. Republicans in the US, the fact that they're talking about astroturfing at the moment, it's like, you guys are like, easily the largest spenders, like the Koch brothers, all the big corporations, the oil companies, the fracking companies, all these fucking people, tobacco companies, they all like flood the right with money. Okay, like it's an insane amount of money. That is the Daily Wire definitely takes oil money. And, there's all these other things, right? So this is a fact. This is not an opinion. And I think, again, we need to just delineate opinion from fact. This is a fact that there's all of these organisations that run, networks of both real and not real people who maliciously and consciously prop up some organisations. Not organisations, prop up some influencers and people. You're just going about your day on the internet. If you build some influence, you get the call, and they'll offer you money to be their mouthpiece, okay? And if you say no, they'll target you and attack you, and that's just a fact of life. And that's because I've got integrity and said no to all of them and told them to fuck off, I get mass reported by everyone all the time, and so no one sees my shit. I mean, the fact that there's quite a few people watching today is impressive. Thank you. I'm appreciating it. But, it's unusual for that to happen. I think it's anyway, we'll see how that goes. Because I'm being vindicated with time. Like every time, every week. That's part of the reason why I just don't stream anymore, because I just gave up. Because I sat there and was like, what's the point? Other than there being a record of the fact that I've been talking about this shit for years, people who've been watching me since the beginning have known that, as I've gone on various podcasts of people, it was all fun and games, and we're talking and talking and talking, and then they talk about like cancel culture, or they talk about these things. And the second that I start mentioning the fact that a lot of this stuff is artificial, a lot of it is engagement pods, a lot of it is coordinated, they shut their assholes clench and they go, what? No go zone. And it's like, I tested this. I know this. It's like, I've experienced it. I've gotten the calls. What more do I want to say without like openly disclosing? Because I don't have the protections of a journalist, because I'm not a journalist. I can't go around mouthing off about people. It's like, because I don't identify as a journalist. It's like, and most journalists haven't been interested in this story because most of the journalists have been propped up by fucking, the newspapers do it. They buy the fucking like bots to boost their articles. It's all just a big like scam. And somehow I just go, oh, well. And I just, so I show up and whatever. But anyway, and it is really fascinating to watch, in the context of the US presidential campaign. And it's like, oh, it drives me nuts. There's nothing that drives me more nuts than people I agree with being horrible and being the worst. Like libs are the worst. The Russiagate people. Oh my God. Now they're empowered. It's like the Russiagate people, who are most definitely not paid by other people to spread other lies, are banging on about Russian bots again. And it's like, no, the Russian campaigns are usually shit. They're usually like 5 followers. They're usually obviously spotted. They're fake, the indictment was interesting because, Tim Pool was paid $100,000 for a video. They got like 8,000 views. And I'm like, oh, the fuck. I want one of them. I wouldn't do it. But, it's like, oh, fuck. Did I make a mistake? I should, because I would have done a better job. I would have at least made sure that the propaganda made sense and that it was researched, because good propaganda, takes from the truth and omits. You don't just sit there and do a lolcow thing for that much money. It's like, oh my God. Anyway, it drives me. I go from being very amused to fucking pissed about the whole thing. But anyway, so it's just, it is fascinating to see people who I also know benefit from bots and astroturfing and disinformation and, lies of omission, and are taking money from like the Business Council of Australia or the tobacco companies or nuclear, the Minerals Council here, acting fucking obtuse all of a sudden, like they're not, like their hands are clean. It's like, that's right. That's what my point was, which was with the DOJ. That's the law. This is going to, I think that the first thing, I think there's a whole process that's going on here, which is that you need the law in which to make the arrest. You need to build the evidence. You need to have a case. You need to have quality evidence. You need to be, you don't, that police don't just go around arresting people that they think aren't guilty or that they can't make charges stick. It's a whole thing where they usually do a especially when they're up against like huge amounts of legal resources, like when you're talking about X or, billionaires and tech fucking billionaires who will jurisdiction hop until the end of time and fuck you around. Like we're seeing here, like the Australian Information Commissioner had there's a company called Clearview who are notorious for breaking all sorts of privacy laws, illegally collecting, harvesting data. Their AI tools, they're one of the most malicious, straightforward, criminal fucking tech companies out there. It's clear cut. And the Australian Information Commissioner has just decided that they can't pursue them because, they're just going to outstrip them. It's not economic for them to pursue and fight this. And that's unfortunately that happened with Elon Musk as well with the e-safety commissioner, is that they are just out-resourced. And so there's that problem, but they also don't generally, they won't be doing, charges like the DPP or the DOJ or whoever's doing those, or the FBI or, whatever. They're not going to make arrest people or build, before building a case that they're pretty confident that they can get a conviction. Like that's just how it works at that end of town. And so, but then there's also been no legal framework in which to pursue bad actors and criminal, the proceedings and all that sort of stuff, right? So I think what we're seeing is that this is the first cabs off the rank to build, there's so many test cases at the moment. Like it's just, I can't keep up with it all. Like it's just every day there's like new complaints, new test cases that are going for certain aspects and certain slices of tech law, right? So, and it's unfortunately across different things. So in criminal law, like cyber stalking and harassment and those sorts of things, rushing up against free speech, so there's been, there was a Supreme Court case recently where the Supreme Court decided on what the threshold was for threats, and they said that it needed to be higher than it was. There's all of these other things, and then you've got other cases over here which are about defamation, and then you've got other cases over here which are about consumer law and consumer rights. It's a messy web to weave, and keeping up with all of it is a lot of work. Okay. But it's coming thick and fast. But I think a lot of this stuff is that, one thing that's about the American system is that sometimes I can't remember who I was watching, which was like sometimes it is the one thing that they will often do is go after a clear foreign boogeyman to sort of, oh, that's right, it was Majority Report. That's right. They were talking about regulations and various other things, whereas Americans, the American legal political system, because corporations have such outsized power, usually the strategy might be to, because they're not necessarily going to regulate heavily against those that, the corporate donors and corporations in the United States domestically, they can actually, what they might be doing to try and bring about the regulations, like with TikTok and China and this influence op with Russia, Tenet Media with Russia, is using sort of those powers to sort of, do better regulation. So it's like, it's all a lot of different moving parts is what I'm saying. I butchered that, but you get what I'm saying. So it's not just, oh yeah, now do this and this and this. The law just moves slowly, and you need a framework in which to prosecute people. You need the legal framework. You need the know-how. You need the evidence. You need to build a case. Then that case needs to go to charges. That charges gets appealed. That goes to the Supreme Court, and eventually laws. There's just so much to look at. But anyway, so you're not necessarily going to be arrested for a tweet. Like they have no interest in that unless you are being made an example of, like in the UK. Like that was a clear sweep because of, a lot of these people have been profiting a lot for a long time, organising, but it was a lot of charges are about whether it's in the public interest to do so. And because there were riots on the street, and it was there was a threshold met where it was in the public interest to make sure that these, these disinformation guys and these hate speech laws and all those things, people were being made an example of, basically. Okay, so that's going to happen. It's going to happen. Sorry, I don't know what to say. If you're such a proponent of free speech, as I said before, then be willing to fight for it. What can I say? You don't just get to decide the law doesn't apply to you. You get arrested and fight, or don't say it. It's like, okay, it's just words. Otherwise, you don't just get to say, oh, well, the law doesn't apply to me. I don't have to do anything. I can just say what I want without any. It's like, that's not how it works. That's a child's view of the world. It's like, well, if I say stuff, I'm quite happy to defend it, and I will. I haven't been in that kind of trouble, because I won't do that kind of thing. But if I find myself in that position, then of course I'll defend it, because it's based on a principle that I hold. And it's like, okay, well, stop moaning. I was telling you that I was shadow banned, and I've been basically mass reported for years and years and years. And yes, I complain about it because I'm pissed off because no one will fix it and no one will listen to it. No one cares because they want it in their toolkit to use against their enemy. And it's like, well, I just fall through the cracks in various ways, and that's okay. I don't mind. I just go, oh, well, go to law school then. Prosecute instead. Study psychology. Okay, is a solution therapeutic? Because it seems like, there's a, social media induced schizophrenia like illness that sort of affects a small portion of the population that we need to pay attention to. And maybe you might want to go into psych research there. And I was like, well, I don't know. So I'll go do a psych degree, go and do a grad dip psych. Okay. No, I don't think that's the problem. Okay. Go to a Juris Doctor then. Become a lawyer so you can, okay. Do something. And then, of course, your armchair experts, suddenly everyone knows everything, like the Telegram thing. It's like, God, this thing where in Brazil, they make it about like everything's like free speech. It's like, no, it's not an absolute thing. There are exceptions to it, and the courts are going to decide what those exceptions are. And in Brazil's case, it was because he wouldn't appoint legal representation in the country. And that's a perfectly sensible thing. It's a perfectly sensible requirement that you have a local representative that can address any legal concerns that the government has. That is a perfectly rational, normal policy that an adult who was running an adult company who wanted access to that market would comply with. And it would concern me on behalf of the Brazilian users that they would not want to have local representation in their legal department, because one of the biggest problems with tech companies is that decisions, policy decisions, trust and safety decisions, algorithmic decisions, a lot of those decisions are being made out of fucking San Francisco, from America, from the people who don't understand that the rest of the world exists and is different to them. That's one of the biggest problems with Australia, the Australian market, is that the nuances of Australian language are not accommodated in the algorithms. The fact that you're Australian and you use certain words, like you say the word cunt to someone and you're saying it affectionately, and the algorithm thinks that and it's like, that's a big problem. Localization is good best practice in tech. Local designers, local interfaces, cross-cultural design, all those sorts of things that flows through to tech policy as well, not just law, and working with law enforcement. So you got to remember that the original terms of service, don't let them rewrite here. Don't let tech guys rewrite history, but the original terms of service with Twitter, if you understand any fucking history whatsoever, was if you've got a court order, then we'll take it down. Get a court order, go to the court, get the thing. That's a perfectly reasonable policy. Obey the law. We're not going to give you stuff, but you need to give us a court order. That's a fairly sane, rational, reasonable process. Okay. And obviously, that's now it's like, well, the cops can't talk to us at all. It's like, no, that's not it. That's absolutely not it. Get a court order, a subpoena, and we'll comply, and that should be the baseline. It should be a little more than that, but at a minimum, the Brazil thing is just he wouldn't even comply with the original terms of service that was Twitter. Okay, like this is just baseline shit. This is I am above the law, and if you try to police me in any way or you try to enforce that, I'm just going to scream about how I'm persecuted and it's free speech, while Nazis harass women and tell us that we're nothing but walking fucking ovum 24/7, and saying that like full-blown Nazi shit gets in everyone's faces 24/7. And it's like, no, go away. It's not free speech. So it's just like, anyway, it's driving me nuts. But all he did, it was just because he refused to represent a legal representative in Brazil, and they used their fucking and just withdrew. Like, you want to be in our market? These are the rules. That's a perfectly reasonable law. You want to be in our country, fucking with our politics, especially in Brazil, where, like various interests in the US, especially, remember, don't forget, Elon Musk is a military contractor. Let's not forget that little part, okay? He is a defense contractor who also owns a massive media platform. And it's like, well, if you want access to this market, you need to appoint a legal representative. That's how fucking, and they won't comply. Fuck you. Perfectly reasonable. If you don't think that is not reasonable, you are either Tim Pool levels of retarded. You're probably someone who gave Tim Pool money and that you're that stupid, or you're just being willfully like stupid, because there's nothing there. Nothing there. It's common sense shit. You want access to the country and its people and want to fuck with its politics and all of the things that go with that, which is what, a defense contractor with a very strong conflict of interest given Brazil's history. You want access to that fucking platform. That's a high risk thing. Have a legal representative. That's a requirement. No? Well, no, you can't have it then. It's not unreasonable. Fuck me. Anyway, but how the mighty have fallen, Greenwald, and oh my God, talk about brainworms. It's like, oh my God. Anyway. So annoying when the worst people online are right. I defended Musk, and, I'm on the record as yes-ending some of these features when he first bought it. The original Twitter was quite shit, very more like corporate HR and advertisers and run by the worst journalists that, on the planet, and all the worst people who are now on Blue Sky and Threads were running it, and that was not a good thing either. And Musk was fixing it, and some of those like substantive problems, like with the blue check, right? But I assumed that there would be some sort of ID verification attached to that. So either a business name. So if you wanted to use a username, that needed to be linked to some sort of identity in the background. Like that's a minimal thing. Like that, this was the stupidest idea. And again, then he said, "Oh no, credit card," and I was like, okay. Well, all right, a credit card makes you, they're using stripes, they're using radar, so that's probably going to verify, but it's all smoke and mirrors. They're not actually doing anything. They're saying they're doing stuff, and there's a big difference. It's almost like people who say they're doing stuff aren't doing stuff or something. It's like, fucking hell. But the Telegram thing as well, that was a whole other thing. And it's like, French laws. I'm sorry, but he... I think people got confused about Telegram because people are conflating the messaging side of Telegram with the group chats and channels. And, I think the cops are only really concerned with the channels, the public channels with tens of thousands of people that people can join, and it's got Nazi shit on it. It's public. It's like it's a social media network as well. And it's like they're not concerned with the one-to-one messaging. They're concerned with these channels that are, and it's like, if you're going to have a massive groups of publicly available information where Nazis and child predators and all of those, and, all of those sorts of things can be organised, and you know about it, okay, and you know about it and you are aware of it, I'm sorry, but I don't know what to tell you. Like, the the worldview of these people where they think that I don't know whether they are so privileged that they don't know the scale of the problem. Or they're predators themselves who want that and like that and don't want their kiddie porn taken away, or like they just don't care about vulnerable people, or they just got so heavy brainworms about and they think that the government cares about their fucking, sharing of memes on it's like, no one gives a shit. No one cares. Like I said, they've got to be able to make charges stick for a start. It's there. Who cares? Okay, it's like, no, and I've been a victim of this stuff. I've had my data weaponized. I've had all this stuff weaponized. I've been targeted by this stuff. And even then I don't care. I was mostly surprised at what's the worst that I've gone through. I've gotten a few fucking death threats via email that weren't anything. And been mass reported for years. Okay, well, I'll do something else then. It's not my right to build a platform and make money on. I don't see it that way. I'm disappointed and annoyed, especially when you see people like, Tim Pool and Dave, the dumbest people on the fucking planet, like being able to buy and sell all of us with never reading anything and having like ghost written books, because I know they're ghost written because the same people approach me to write books and I wouldn't write them. And it's like, and it's like I haven't been approached to go write books for people. I've got skills, I can do stuff, but I won't, I'm not sitting here, well, I am complaining. You know what I mean? Fucking hell. And it's like the Telegram thing is like, well, fuck around and find out. What are you complaining for? It's like, you want to have free speech, you want to fight for free speech, then fucking fight for it. Don't fucking whinge and moan. How much privilege do you need to have? How privileged do you need to be to think that you should have, again, you don't have to, you also don't understand history to the point where every freedom that normal people get has been hard fought and people have been sacrificed for it, okay? That every right that we have is a privilege and we have to keep fighting for it, okay? So first of all, when you're talking about free speech as like it's like, okay, your natural rights is still an idea. It's that you have to fight for. It's not something it's not given to you by God. And if you believe in God, you're an idiot anyway. So anyway, fuck it, whatever. But I'm just saying, like, these things have to be fought for. How arrogant and privileged and entitled are people that they think that they don't have to fight for their fucking rights? And that, oh yeah, well, I believe in free speech, but what it should be is that it should be someone else that fights for it. No, this guy, Durov, has has billions of dollars. You fight for your users then. You go to jail. Zuck, you go to jail. Musk, you go to jail. Not me. I didn't fucking do anything. Don't fucking jail the innocent dickhead who shared a fucking, meme. You fight, so no one else can get, you do the fighting then, dickhead. Pisses these free speech dickheads, they're such cowards. At the end of the day, they're such entitled, privileged, whiny little cowards who just don't want to be told what to do. And it's like, no, because if you believe in these things, you put your money where your mouth is. And I've said this before with Musk. Like, one of the things that I'll give him is that he fucking will do petty bullshit lawsuits and put his money, he will put resources to it. You don't sit there moaning about free speech and how, you don't have the... It's like, no, you want to sit around misgendering trans people in front of, on social media? Get a knock at the door. Fight for it then. There's nothing funnier than watching these gender criticals in the UK moan and that they got a fucking knock on the door from the cops. Oh, that's for the other people. It's not for me. No, you wanted speech? You want to fucking say what you want? Fight for it then. What do you think, you fucking coward? You think you're better than us? You think that you're better than people who it's like, no, fuck you. I pay the price every day for speaking my mind and I will fight to the death for it. Right? And it's like, no, Sit there fucking moaning. How dare you knock on my door and ask questions of me because I've never had any hardship and no one has ever questioned me in my life. No, I've had to fight for every thought, opinion, fucking job, client, piece of dollar, everything I've ever had, follower, everything I've ever had. So fuck you. Fight for once, you lazy cunt. There you go. That's how I feel about it all. Fucking moaning. That was for you, Stephen. I got going. That said, you like Tim Pool, so you're a fucking idiot. An idiot that I like, but an idiot nonetheless for that. Tim Pool's a fucking idiot. Here's another thing. Fucking Canva. Oh my God, did you like this thing on Canva? I was just looking at my notes, what I was like, might want to talk about the Canva thing. Fucking, I hate Canva. I've hated Canva since day one because like they, again, they just bottom feeders on the creative industries. I was, obviously I was a designer and a web designer and all that sort of stuff. And they just take these things and they commodify, they commodify everything. They steal everything. And then they sort of package it up as a crap version. But then because so many people use it, it becomes like the standard for the sort of lower mid. So you've got all of these fucking from my side as an agency, again, I'm not threatened by these things because I know their limitations and I know that eventually you just end up with a design that looks the same as everyone else's and you end up with, like if you use like stock photography or free stock photography or AI generated stuff, like people know it looks like shit. It's not going to do anything. Okay, it's just something that you've shat out. There's nothing there that like your digital strategy is bespoke and your audience and customers are bespoke unless you're selling sort of crypto scrams and generic shit. If you're actually selling anything of value, you want to do something unique, right? That's like a 101 in digital strategy or any kind of brand strategy. It's like, well, okay, go and use clip art for your logo and see how far you get. Like it's, unless you're a plumber or an electrician, because those are fairly inelastic kinds of services where you can do a word art logo and it doesn't matter because people, you're just going to get referral business. It doesn't matter. But if you're actually having to fight for your business with, brands and with branding and marketing and all of those sorts of things, you're going to differentiate yourself. But so Canva have played a very big role in, commodifying and homogenizing the internet and especially like, graphic design, which again, makes it more accessible. But the flip side of that is that you end up having to like have the same, like another part of the reason why I quit was because I was having the same fucking conversations as I was having for 15 years, but they were getting longer and longer, more and more annoying. And I was being paid less and less and less to have the conversation, to talk them out of these things. And I just said, fuck this shit. I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do it. I remember the moment that I broke. I'm writing about that at the moment. I remember the moment. There were two distinct moments where I just snapped and I went, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I'm too smart for this shit. I'm too good for this shit. And it's like, this is fucking this industry. This was 2018. So, like, I was right because you look at the state of the industry now, I'm glad I got out. I'm like, 8 months from now and I'll be a lawyer. So that's pretty cool. But like Canva, this is hilarious. It's such a fucking funny example because they're like the product that no one wants it. Like, no, sorry, say it again. The product that no one wanted, like no one asked for. They just decided that like it fills a niche with like your idiots who can't use Photoshop or, don't like want to use the, it's like they provided an okay product for what it was. Canva does the job, whatever. Okay. So it provided if you don't know what Canva is, it's kind of like a template site. It's like it's like an assets, predefined templates for documents and pictures. It started out like doing social media graphics and banners, and they sort of gradually moved into other things like videos and stories and print flyers, various other things. So lots of templates and that sort of stuff. So it was a browser-based app, which was, at the time it was quite revolutionary because you were doing a lot of the stuff in a browser that, you'd have to download Photoshop or a version of that, InDesign or Illustrator. You'd have to have the Creative Suite, and it sort of made it, again, it democratized all of it, right? But Canva also just fucking just, yet again, just stole from everyone else, right? That's what they took everyone's stock and licensed everyone's stock without anyway, moving on. But they basically, so, they've got their free version of the product, and then they've got their pro, and then they've got the, the Teams product. And so they've decided to like triple their rates, but they're blaming AI. And it's basically like the idea that like they've pushed AI onto people, and AI generation, and Adobe are doing the same thing. They've inflicted this crap onto people, and now they're like, no, but because of this thing that you didn't want and no one asked for and is bad and terrible, we're tripling our rates. I love seeing it. I love it. It's funny. And they're going to implode their product, because this is shitification at work, which is that they're never content. These tech companies, that because they're seeking perpetual exponential growth, okay, perpetual growth, they don't, and Google's had this problem, they've all got this problem. In their pursuit of never-ending growth, they're never happy with the core product. The core product gets compromised so badly that they can't just sit and be happy. Like Facebook would never be happy just having a social network. X would never be happy just being Twitter, because Twitter is a fantastic product. It is an innovative product. There is still nothing like it, regardless of how much cope you post on Threads about how it's better. It ain't. There is nothing like Twitter, and I doubt there ever will be again. Okay. But you've got, so they drift away from, like Google with search. They drift away from their core offering, and they bolt on and bolt on and bolt on to the point where and WordPress is suffering this with the plugins, where every plugin bolts on and bolts on and bolts on, and then you end up with overlap and you end up with bloat, and it all just ends up going to shit, okay? The experience ultimately ends up shit for the user. The user ends up paying subscriptions. Like you'll see this with like Office 365 and Google and all of those, and iCloud. They've got overlapping features and storage, right? For example, storage, Dropbox, Google. They all, rather than doing Dropbox being a great Dropbox thing where it's like, remote storage and it's great, they have to add in docs and compete with docs, and then you have to choose an ecosystem, and then it's like, and the messaging apps have to be a social media app, and everything has to be everything else. LinkedIn's putting like TikTok videos in their thing, apparently. I'm so there for that shit, especially if you get to ratio and stitch and duo like you can on TikTok with LinkedIn. I'm so fucking there. It's so funny. I need a drink. I got to go soon because I got to piss. But yeah, but basically, now AI is the new thing. They're pushing this shit that nobody wants, nobody asked for, and with AI tools, like I'm now paying for a couple of different AI tools that do the same thing because they're hooking into OpenAI's API. I pay for ChatGPT Premium. I pay for the OpenAI credits for some automations that I've got. I pay for Notion AI for my Notion app because there's some really cool AI features within Notion that I take advantage of, like turning meeting notes into actionable tasks and those sorts of things. It's really useful for that kind of thing. But now I'm paying for overlapping features, and it's like, can't you just be happy with the fact that you've got a really good core product? No, of course not. So Canva, being Canva, and being the fucking bottom feeding like pieces of shit that they are. I mean, sorry, Australia's beautiful, most innovative startup. I mean, it definitely came from Australia. When you think about what great tech products came out of Australia, you know everything you need to know, which is Jira and Canva. Middle of the road, baby. Nothing great. Just take someone's shit, ruin it, make it a shit experience, make it overly bloated, overly dead, and suddenly you're a unicorn. Congratulations. Anyway, we don't do lean here. Let's put it that way. But no, Canva was good at the time. It was a useful tool at the time when builders and when most people, your average social media manager wasn't paid enough. They only paid a couple $100 a month to manage people's Twitter for them. So making sort of basic social media graphics and infographics and shit like that, it did the job, right? It's fine. I mean, personally, I think if you're earning like Creative Cloud is worth, it's always paid for itself for me because I make more than, it's an hour's work, less than an hour's work for me. You know, so it's like, well, much less than an hour's work for me now. But, you know, even when I was like first starting out, it was, you know, an hour's work a month. It's not expensive. And it's, you know, it pays for itself if you're doing, like, if you're charging enough, it pays for itself. But it's just, so, you know, Canva had a specific part in the market, but then again, mediocrity takes over and suddenly we're awash with mediocre shit. And AI is just the next extension of that. Slop. I mean, you know, like I use it for, it has utility in a few areas, you know, but like it's not, does anyone really care about AI anymore? Like it's you know, the bubble's bursting very, very quickly. Very funny. But, you know, the problem with this stuff is that when the bubble bursts, it's never the billionaires that pay the price. It's always the small business who built off the back of the API, or the you know, the consultant who has built their technology off the back of you know, these LLMs or whatever, right? It's never the big tech companies that are that make a fortune on their stock price and speculation and hype. It's always the people who, when that API is shut down, or that, you know, they just remove features that are, you know, core to someone's product, that you know, they're the ones that end up penalised at the end of the day. They're the ones that end up going out of business. It's never the fucking tech companies. And that's why all this legislation that I've been talking about, it needs to happen. And they need to have like the ability to sue these people. They need to be able to police this shit. Because, like, it's, you know, they're unstoppable. You know, they're not above the law, and they're hiding behind free speech. It's not speech. It's abuse. It's feudalism. You know, and it's like, no, fuck this shit. But anyway, what else have we got here in the notes? Oh yeah, there was that thing about the TikTok case, but you know, people find that boring. But anyway, you know, like I am a bit like, obviously with the lead up to the US election, mating season, as like, you know, mating season is here for the rest of the world. It's great. We love it. It's fucking lovely. But, you know, like the worst people on earth, the loudest people on earth are in conflict. It always goes well. I feel like I live in a fucking crackhead street fight, with her slashing tyres and him stumbling around drunk 24/7, and it's right outside my window. That's what my Twitter feed feels like. And it's like, what's the point? So I just don't, you know, obviously I'm just like on the home stretch with my law degree now, so I'm like, just whatever. Talk shit on Twitter and, you know, whatever, who cares? Okay. But anyway, it's quite a lot of, oh, look, 88 consecutive viewers. That's quite a lot for a live stream. Thank you. That's cool. That's high for me. That's cool. I don't know where they're coming from. Whatever. It's all those Russian bots. It's Russia. Hi, Russia. How you doing? But, you know, I just, there's a lot of like, I don't know, I'm still, part of the reason why I haven't really streamed much is because I am a bit adrift. And, all, you know, first of all, there's so much and it moves so fast. So by the time that I can get anything out or done, it's sort of done and old. It's not really, because I'm, you know, busy. I'm like balls deep in equity and trust at the moment. And if you thought that's boring, you know, I really should just be paid fucking $100,000 a week from one person to not study. And I'm sitting there earning $1 having to read equity and trusts and fucking go like, what the fuck? And then you have Joe Rogan going, Tim Paul's the fucking tech expert. He knows everything. So, oh, fuck me. Fuck you. Fuck you all. Then again, I also wouldn't take the money, but it's not the point. It's so ass backwards. It's so fucking ass backwards. It's like the guy left school at 14. It's like, oh my God. If that's your source of news, you're retarded. Anyway, what do we got? Now talk about Brazil. talked a bit about Tenet, sorry. That's like, again, like, I think that that's going to be the first of many. And I think they're going with, oh, that's right. I was trying to explain, like, strategically, going with a Russia thing, what you do is you sort of bring a thing. I can see the strategy to go after Russian first. Okay, I can see why that would be a thing, because you can push, like I said, you can use sort of national security arguments and other regulations and people's fear and xenophobia with the sort of low-hanging fruit case of something like the Tenet, the RT thing, to then create the precedent for, like the Tenet thing is low-hanging fruit in terms of making an example of people. Like, I have noticed a lot of the commentators who I also know are on the take. There's two ways that they're reacting. Right? One is that they are, well, I never. Can you believe this is a thing? Like, that's one of them, which is hilarious. And you've got people who are quiet, very quiet, but then you've got other people who are, obviously, it's fascinating to watch. If you kind of can read nonverbal cues and stuff like that with people, it's fucking fascinating, because I think there's got to be at least pretty much all of the right-wing ecosystem, good portions of the liberal different ones. Like I said, that's a fucking headline on CNN. I posted it on X, and CNN's like, right-wing influencers caught unwittingly sharing Russian propaganda. And I'm like, well, yeah, you should do it like CNN and do it wittingly. It's like it is funny because they don't really know how to, I can feel the tension. And again, it'll just be if your only takeaway from any of this is that everyone does it. It is so banal that it is like just endemic to the industry. It needs transparency laws and measures and policing and all of those sorts of things. I came to the law degree through knowing that this was a thing, that there was sorry, I'm fucking stammering. What should I say? I came to deciding to do law for this very reason, which was that this is so fundamentally broken. There are so many loopholes. Everyone is on the take. Except for, a handful. There's probably a handful of people that I could confidently say are probably not on the take. And even then, I don't know. Okay? Because, like, Tim Pool surprised me. I thought he was just a lolcow. I didn't think that anyone would want to give him money to do that so badly. I honestly thought that he would, like I said, the Jerry Springer effect, and being a lolcow was sort of more his thing. Okay? But, the right fucking flush with cash. But it is very funny to watch the tension, because as long as you watch pretty much every influencer, especially if they've got a Patreon, or it's not clear how their money is made and they're not open about how their money is made, I would, I know a handful that I know have been given money, because I've also seen that they've started spitting out the talking points that I was asked to speak about. And I refused. So, and there's been a couple of people I've seen talking about that sort of lower level influence streamers and various other people on YouTube that are not high profile ones, like, I can't think of any examples at the moment, but a sort of, 2,000 subs like me, right? No views, shadow banned for fucking eternity. No one hears me. No one sees me because I'm mass reported by these assholes. It's that they've been approached as well, and that they've seen, if you've received the calls, who is being paid by various bad actors, and because you've had the same deal on the table, and they've obviously taken it. Like, it's I'm speaking around it because obviously I've got to be very careful. Like I said, I don't have the protections of a journalist because I don't claim to be a journalist, and I am aware that I could be. I can't. I'm not somebody. I don't talk out of both sides of my mouth on purpose. Sometimes I do, but not on purpose. I don't pretend that I'm a journalist, and I don't have the protections of a journalist, and I don't have the protections of a media company or anything like that. And also I live in Australia, where defamation is a lot more. It's a lot. You can be fucked with a defamation case. So, obviously I've got to be very careful. But I could if you're a Fed, I can give you a list. It's like I know who they are. I know the list of people who need to be investigated, and I'm watching them fucking get all self-righteous about this fucking like Tim Pool thing. It's like, yeah, be careful there, fella. You know, wouldn't want to get, be careful. But I do think this is the first of many like things that are coming, and I think that the low-hanging fruit, which is just Russia and American companies taking money directly from Russia and paying influencers that nobody likes, that's an easy score. Like from the PR point of view, not just the legal, but PR, because obviously that's a much easier sell. There's, that, whether you like it or not, there is a strategic element. There's a PR element, especially in the US, to prosecutions. And so I have a feeling there's going to be more cases. I have a feeling that this has been a long-lasting investigation. It will be very interesting to see what accounts like Libs of TikTok and various other outfits where they're actually getting like most of their money from. And I'll I have my suspicions. Okay. And again, if you've sort of walked in these circles and you've sort of like, nobody knows who I am. No one cares who I am. But I have made friends with these people, loose associations, friended, unfriended, like they've sort of drifted away, pretend I don't exist a lot of the time because I've touched on their bit, because I see through it and I see what they're doing, and I know what they're doing is unethical. If I was you, I'd be very cautious of giving patron money or Patreon money if you can't afford it, right? If you can't, and I'm not saying to give it to me, I'm just saying generally, if you can't afford, and if you think that you are sort of supporting somebody for like, $2, $3, $4, $5 a month, and you suspect that they're taking money from other sources and they're double dipping, or that they're sort of doing talking points that are quite reactionary, right? I can name a few of the smaller ones like now, but again, I've got to be careful about this sort of thing and speak more precisely. Again, you got to be careful about, you got to have evidence, like actual, you can't just go around saying shit. But I have my suspicions about various things, and I've seen various things, and, a lot of these operations are designed in a way that you can't prove it. I can't sit there without Twitter saying, without subpoenaing the number of times my tweets have been reported from Twitter. I can't exactly prove that, can I? But I can know from my 20 years of experience and having advised everything. I know what numbers look like. I know what, I know how things should behave, and it's not behaving as it should, and I've reverse engineered it. And I can, I can make somewhat of an assumption and conclusion based on my experience that I'm being mass reported in the background to again, I've gone through this a lot of times, which is that they just report. You say something like the C word, you say something, you slip up, and then you get a 12-hour suspension, and then you get another 12-hour suspension, and then you get a ban. It's like, it's because you're constantly being mass reported for innocent shit, and then you do one little slip up of irony or whatever, and they can get rid of your account. And my original Twitter account is suffering from that because I had so many suspensions that I'm now in the shitter, having done nothing wrong, just being an Aussie and saying things and really honestly underestimating this problem. Like, I'm still grieving it. Like, every day I sit there and I go, how did this go wrong? I mean, again, rhetorically, thanks fellas, rhetorically, like, what the fuck happened to this thing? Like, the book that I've been working on, another one that that's the main one that I've been really working on for many years. Started out as a love letter to the internet and an appreciation of it, and it's really become a eulogy, and that's why it's taken me a long time, because I was going through a lot of this grieving process. I started writing it years ago, like 12 years ago, and I wrote it and I wasn't happy with it, and I was like, it's too academic. I wanted to make it a bit more, I wasn't ready. Okay, so I scrapped it, started over. And then it was a love letter to all of this stuff, to the opportunities that the internet gave me, little old me, all of the people and the stories and all that sort of stuff. But then, I started to, and then I had to scrap it again. And it's become somewhat of a telling those stories, but more in the sense that it's a eulogy and a mourning of what could have been. And so it makes me very sad to think about that. But, it's what can you do? What can you do? And unfortunately, because the people who are most successful on social media now have been on social media for all of 10 years and have successfully managed to memory hole a lot of this stuff, and weren't really paying attention to the details because, they were just using it. They weren't, experts in it. I find myself sort of a lone voice and a lone critic in this space. Like I've seen all this AI shit before. It's the same shit. And it will collapse and it will but the thing about the internet is that new things will spring up in its place. Okay. So I still also appreciate that I think that this is a particularly ugly period in our history. And we went through this before with, the printing press, went through that with yellow journalism. And, we've gone through that several times. We've got, they've gone through McCarthyism in the United States and did they ever come out of the other side? I don't think they did. This is, we're going through this same McCarthyist shit. The Gaza situation in Israel and all the information and the information wars that are going on there. And then they blame Russia for everything. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake. It's so obvious. Like, yeah, okay. Well, I think what we should do is do an audit and see how much Israel spends on these influence operations and how much more sophisticated and psychopathic they are. Like I probably get reported. I'll tell you what, like the thing that affected my accounts the most was talking about anything that went up against Koch money. So Koch has been running these right-wing campaigns in Australia for vaping, but they do it in a way to weaponize the bogans. Okay, so Advance Australia and these other idiot libertarians that so they think they're fighting for their First Amendment rights in Australia. They're fucking idiots. But there's this sort of they're a lot smaller, but there's this right wing reactionary contingent like One Nation voters here. But the money's coming from America, and the astroturfing is coming from America, and they do it to sort of engineer a lot of this. Because obviously we're a military partner, and we've got Pine Gap, all that sort of stuff, right? We're 52nd state behind Israel. So it's there's all these info ops that affect our politics as well, right? And going up against them has been the most significant. The trans activist stuff is a bit different. But that was obviously, there was a whole bunch of astroturfing around that too. Anyone who had anything to say was attacked by, but they were obviously bots, right? People, and the thing about the trans stuff, which I found really interesting, was because again, there was a period of time with that debate where it was reasonably small between radfem. There was a cleavage that's always existed between radfems and sort of, libfems and that sort of stuff. Like those are normal cleavages, right? And then that had gasoline poured on it by the right. And I can remember a time when someone like Tim Poole was not aware of this stuff, okay? And he wasn't even talking about it. And then he suddenly became aware of it. Through through Megan Murphy's ban and a couple of other things, and the right saw it as an opportunity to recruit women to the right. Like I've watched this stuff happen, and so a lot of those info ops have been designed to nudge people to the right and to the lunatic right. Like fucking hell, man. That gender critical pipeline to fascist is pretty terrifying. But heavily astroturfed, again, it's like, unless I'm talking to a real person, I'm not going to engage with that shit. And also, like, one of the talking points at the moment is, what is far right? What is far right? It's like, well, it's defined. It's been defined for years. There's consensus on it. Look it up. You're far right. Okay, thank you. Oh my God, it's so exhausting. It's like, would you just read anything? Read a thing. Go into ChatGPT. What is far right? Google, what is far right? What is a far right person? Okay? It's defined. Look it up. You're not being original and philosophical by asking for definitions that you don't like. Asking for definitions when you can easily look it up. Okay? It's so stupid. Anyway. But yeah, so, you know, but I think and also, like, you can see that I don't participate in certain things because I know, like, I would be a lot more out there on Gaza if I knew that it wasn't going to be the last nail in the coffin for my accounts. Like every time you do anything about like Gaza or against the far right in the US or against Trump particularly, you get absolutely mass reported and you have to hang on for dear life with your account. So you have to keep your nose clean. Don't reply. Like, I have gotten to a point where I don't actually even reply to people directly anymore because I'm so afraid of being banned for saying the wrong thing, because I'm mass reported so much that I am scared to reply. Like, because replying at someone is treated very differently to a quote tweet or a original tweet. Because obviously in law, you understand that, like, there's a difference between saying it out there as an expression and at a person. Those are distinct things. And so that is the case on social media as well. So if you're replying to somebody with something, like I replied with hang your head in shame with a smiley face to a mutual friend who we both mutually follow, and I got a suspension for that because it was a reply. That's how bad it is. That's how bad my account is. I can't even say hang your head in shame. And then you get these other accounts that are just obvious, like they're just the most. And people, it's like people. I wish I could explain to you and get you to understand just how unbalanced this is and how unfair it is in favor of, like, you've seen the shit that's on X, like the horrible stuff, awful stuff. And it stays up because first stuff. And I said, hang your head in shame, smiley face. And I get a ban for 12 hours. And it's like, because I'm just so continually mass reported. One little fuck up and it's like, it gets wiped out. Like, that's just how they manipulate these things. It's insane. Like, I don't know why I stay there out of habit and hope. And sunk costs, and I've said this before, sunk costs and hope, and knowing that Twitter lives in spite of itself. Part of me is hoping that fuckhead gets arrested and it gets seized and sold to someone else. But you know, like, Twitter's always had dark periods, and this is just an extra dark one. And it's like, but there's nothing else like it, and there's nothing that replaces it. So it's like we're kind of stuck, right? But, you know, the people that are on Threads constantly posting about how it's better than Twitter. It's like, no, you stop talking about your ex. You know, if you are talking about your ex all the time, you're not over them. You're over your ex when they don't pass your mind and you don't think about them. Okay? You're obviously posting. Stop it. And oh my God, Blue Sky. It's like, talk about a bubble of fucking cope there. It's like all the engagement pods from the, like, Democratic Party are over there. Midas Touch and all those people, they've all moved in over at Blue Sky. It's like, oh my God. Can I just hang out, please? Can I just be like, what the fuck? I'm sick of being a canary in the mine. LinkedIn, ironically, is the best platform for me. And it's like, but it's also not really, you know, some of it's my target audience, but, you know, I do also, I'm also a little too, edgy and swear a bit too much for it to be appropriate for a professional audience. I mean, again, I don't really differentiate between those anyway, but at the same time, it's like, it's not really the right channel for my kind of stuff. So it's just very frustrating that Twitter has gone so heavily to shit. But, like, I got a 12-hour suspension, like, a couple of months ago for, at a friend of mine who was making a joke, and I said, hang your head in shame, smiley face. I got a suspension for that. Because I'm like, obviously it's just a bot that's just mass ping, mass reporting me, versus all of that horrible Nazi shit. that I report that stuff. Like someone said, I've got to be careful about it, but they said the Germans were the good guys in World War II. Someone said that as a tweet. And I was like, in someone's, and it's like, no, we found nothing wrong with that. Well, what about mine then? Anyway, because it's mass reported. Anyway. Because they trip up the algorithm, because if things receive an X threshold of mass report, they assume that the algorithm assumes that it's something that must be immediately taken down. So a human never sees it, right? Versus something that's manually reported, like, okay, and it's just like, it's so fucking unbalanced. It's so ridiculous. You can't appeal it. You can't do anything. I did oh my God, because I pay for premium just so I can get support and so I can stream, right? And 2 weeks ago, it was a week, where on the desktop app, on my Tealoo account, the one that is shit and compromised, the Explore tab wasn't working. And I was just like, this is just another fucking thing where I'm like, and it took them a week to respond. And they said, try clearing your browser cache and stuff. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Is this what I'm paying for? It's like, I could have asked Grok that and Grok would have given me the answer, and I know to clear that shit. And it was working on my other account, you fucking idiot. And it resolved within 24 hours and was a bug, you fucking idiot. What am I paying for? Motherfuck, a week it takes them. And if you get banned and you have premium, by the way, if you get suspended and you have premium, they block you from having support. So the one thing that you would pay for premium, which is when you get a suspension, the ability to contact support, they don't let you contact support. It's so insane. Anyway, I don't know why I sit around and put up with this shit. Anyway, it's bullshit. Anyway, I think I'm going to go. It's like an hour and a half, and I know it's been a while. I am going to try and be back more frequently. I'm trying to do some more pre-recorded stuff. It's just, I got to prioritize. Like, as much as I appreciate people like showing up to see and all that sort of stuff, it's not exactly, no one's paying me any money. Hey, Russia, I'll be a tanky. I don't mind. I fucking whatever. Pretty close. Fuck it. But, I'll be a tanky for pay, but I'll do a good job of it. I'll actually read fucking Lennon. And I'll actually read the books. How about that? You can pay me $100,000 a fucking video and I'll actually read the books and make it stick. How's that sound? Fuck me. Anyway, become a patron. I have $1 million patron account, $1 million patron tier. I'm just going to leave that there, shall I? Still can't be bought, just saying. But what I will do is, okay, I won't do it for Russia or a foreign force who isn't an obvious ally of my country. I will only do the things that are hypocritical and corporate, and I'll only do the big money that isn't going to get me arrested. I'll just do unethical things, not illegal things, okay? I wouldn't, but I'm just saying it'd be fun if one person showed up to offer me that money to test it, because that is a pretty big amount of money for the amount of effort. And I think that everyone's got a price, and I do wonder, I've managed to say I've got integrity because the price has been pretty low. But what happens when the price is high? It's like, I think there's an awful lot of people who are like, no, I don't know if I could turn down that money. I'd do a couple of videos and then retire, buy a house for cash and then disappear. Oh, anyway, I love you. I hope you're well. Thanks for watching. I got to piss. Thank you for your precious life seconds. Where's my button? Where's the good one? Hang on. Where are we?
And I will not let you down.
Remember that one? What a load of old shit! Anyway, it's been fun.
We can.
Like clips coming soon.
Can. Oh, just thinking about her. Can.
I gotta
just
piss.
wish I had.
Thank you, precious life. I don't know. I'm not going to say I'm going to be back because I don't know when. I'll do it when I feel like it. keep an eye out, subscribe to notifications and whatever. But I've really got to streamline my shit. I've just been like, I got to prioritize, you know. It's almost like law school is hard or something. It's almost like doing things the right way takes time and energy that you don't have, and that I can't spend all my time on the internet while being someone reliable and well thought out and well researched. It's almost like those things are incompatible with each other. But I do my best. So I love you. I do it because I like it and because it's fun and because I fucking, again, sunk costs. I spent so much money on setting this up. It's like I can't, it's a lot of it's that. It's like fucking hell. So I'll just, oh yeah, I'll try to be back this week, but I might not, but I'll probably will. See how we go. Keep an eye out. Thanks for watching. There's like quite a few of you, so it's good to see. I appreciate you. Be well. Stay sane. And don't trust fucking people. Don't like, oh my God. Seriously, stop. Oh, everyone's figured out that if they like weaponize the thing that's important to you, you will give them money. Okay. If they are of a certain size, assume they've received a certain phone call and are receiving certain payment, which means you don't have to give them $5 if you don't have $5. Okay. Don't do it. Okay. And I'm not saying that if someone gives you value to not, you know, if you actually, you know, like there's people I support on Patreon, obviously, because they're funny and I want access to extra stuff or whatever. But be more vigilant about who you're throwing money at, especially online people who are claiming to be activists and selling merch rather than actually doing stuff. And you know who I'm talking about, who are definitely on the take. Definitely on the take. Because their business model doesn't make sense without them having a lot more support behind the scenes. Okay. People have managed to figure out how to weaponize your lizard brain and to get you to think that you're part of a grassroots movement when you're part of an MLM scam. And what happens with MLM scams? The people at the bottom are the ones who see the consequences and get ripped off. So I'm warning you, just don't. This is very sophisticated stuff. Just be suspicious of anyone who's constantly upselling, constantly telling you, you know, trying to get money out of you while attaching money to a cause online. Most of them are, you know, especially like crowdfunding, like people who are crowdfunding, you know, be suspicious. Because I can guarantee you that if someone's been cancelled or someone's saying anything political or anything that's popular to one particular tribe in the American culture wars particularly, but on an issue, if there is a lot of money on both sides of an issue, which is usually the case, or you are useful to be nudged in a direction, like, you know, leaving the left, for example, assume that people are getting a phone call and they are getting made offers and they are doing deals with the devil. And the people that say no to that generally don't grow very quickly. Like most of the people who started YouTube the same time I did, who took those deals, are now a lot bigger than me. And why is that? Because they, you know, they took the money and they can spend the money and they can, you know, hire people and all the stuff. Like I'd love to hire people to do my editing. Like I'm not going to get anyone to do it for cheap or free because that's not part of my value set. And it's like, well, okay, I'll just have to wait until I've, you know, I just won't do it. I'm not going to lie to anyone and say that, like, I'm not going to do smoke and mirrors stuff. The only reason that this camera looks still because I've got a good camera, because I've got good skills and I learned how to do stuff. I've learned how to do lighting. You know, I do have some money coming in and I do have, you know, I just happen to have the gear. And it's something that, you know, I've learned how to do myself, but it's not something that I have a team to do. I'd be suspicious of, like, you know, like, how do you pay for a producer? How does a producer, you know, like, how do you ask, like, do the maths on what a full-time salary for a producer for someone who streams is. Do the maths on it. If they're saying they've got 5 people and they're like, they've got 20,000 views, that's not economical for them to do so. So where's the money coming from? Are they, like, I'm self-funded, like I just invested in a camera and, you know, I thought that I could use my social capital to grow, but I couldn't because I found myself on the unfortunate side of having integrity and, again, that mass reporting and stuff, which is, by the by. But for the most part, it's like not economical to, like even like 1 million views on a video is like, a couple $100. It's not a lot of money. And so, if once you're talking about paying people to do editing and graphics and sound and light, and you've got a team and you've got people in the room, you've got writers, unless you are they're either using free labor, exploited offshore people, okay, so they're lowballing and paying fuck all on Fiverr for things, which the quality won't be there, and it won't be polished, or they are sort of, again, like, or they've got other income streams that are funding this stuff, like be skeptical. Like, and that's partially why I started YouTube, because I sat there and I'm like, these guys and their productions, they are a lot more expensive because, obviously as an agency, I know what producing a video costs, right? What it would cost to produce. Like, I didn't produce the videos, but I knew what it would cost to hire someone to produce, edit, whatever series of videos for social media, right? And I was like, okay, so it doesn't, but I also know what income you get from various platforms. And I was sitting there and it was like, okay, the numbers don't add up. I need to go in and understand how the numbers work. And this is how the numbers work, because they're taking fucking massive amounts of money from dodgy sources. And again, it's across the industry. So, but anyway, I'm going to go. I love you. Stay well and just take care. And feel free to ask me anything. If I haven't seen the comments, it's because I've only seen the YouTube ones. Nothing else has come through. I'm not ignoring you. I just haven't seen it. But again, it's that's not much I can do about that. Have a great day. I'll be back at some point. I got to piss. Don't forget to turn your mic off, Taya. Battery one. It's it's the Rode, the Pro video mic Rode, but it's the one with the 9-volt battery in it. And I keep forgetting to turn it off because it's a battery powered one, and because I prefer it, but because it's an expensive mic, and I'm not buying another fucking mic just because I forget the batteries. So don't forget your batteries, Taya. That's good life advice. I should not forget my battery. What a load of old shit! Okay. Bye.